This is Bob Beckel,
This is Cal Thomas, a conservative who is pro-life,
a liberal who once worked for Jimmy Carter,
who favors smaller government,
who believes in big government.
and in a town full of cheap shot artists, I've never heard Cal take a cheap shot.
But even when he's wrong, he's likable. And this is Common Ground.
And this is Common Ground.
Welcome again to Common Ground, a video version of Bob Beckel's and my bi-weekly USA Today column in which we try to figure out how to bridge Washington's partisan divide. Well, Bob, this week gridlock took on a whole new meaning with two-foot snowstorms that has basically shut down the federal government and all the schools. This is kind of a metaphor for where we are politically in this town, isn't it?
It sure is. Although I'm surprised. I thought you'd be glad the federal government
Well,
shut
actually,
down.
I am. I think we're saving money.
There you
no
go.
non-essential employees need to show up. I like
Look,
that.
look, the thing that's amazing to me is that here Obama goes, after a State of the Union speech, goes to the Republican House retreat, talks to them on camera, takes questions and answers, some contentious, but it was pretty good television.
I agree, totally.
And then that's front page news, the fact that they're just talking to each other.
Right.
Now the big deal is that they're going to have a health care summit, and Obama said, if you guys have some ideas to the Republicans, bring them down to the White House, we'll televise it, and let's go.
You know, Bob, it's easier to get the Palestinians and the Israelis to sit down than the Republicans and Democrats. I was one who gave high marks to the president for going to that Republican retreat in Baltimore. This is the kind of conversation that most Americans have, that you and I have. We're fellow Americans, after all. We're not enemies. The Taliban are our enemies trying to destroy us. Why are we trying to destroy each other?
Well, first of all, I think Obama has made extraordinary efforts with the Republicans, but the Republicans have no interest in helping Obama. It's an election year. Look, I went, you talked to John Boehner, right,
yes,
about this whole issue. What did he say?
Well, let me tell you what he said here after I put my cheaters on.
Put your cheaters
Yeah, thank
in.
you very much.
You got it?
I got it. This is what he said. Public confidence in Washington and Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike, is so low right now that if we prove that we can work together to get something done without sacrificing our principles, it helps everyone. Now, I initially thought, well, maybe this time, it will work. But already there are conditions being put on this meeting on health care reform. First of all, the president says we're going to start with the bills that have already been passed, and then the Republicans say, well, we want to bring along the governors and the state legislators too, and we don't want that bill that's already been passed. So here it is more than a week out before we get to the meeting, and already they're disagreeing.
Yeah, let me just say one thing about John Boehner. When he talks about principles, what his principles are is not seeing Democrats making sure Democrats lose seats this fall, and Obama doesn't get reelected. He talks about principles. Let me ask you this. Obama does something this last year. He passes a bill giving kids more health insurance, and Boehner opposes it. Now, what is wrong? What principle is it that keeps health insurance from kids?
Well, the principle of, look, we don't want to get into that debate right now, but the principle is private enterprise. A lot of kids don't need health care because they're young and they're healthy. But let's not go there. Let's stick to the subject of the moment. Let me tell you something. Michelle Bachmann, one of your favorite people, also told me in an email that I asked her, and until Republicans begin to see our ideas incorporated into policy, I don't see us gaining anything by going out of our way to applaud the president's meaningless gestures of cooperation and bipartisanship. You know, personality is one thing, Bob, but policy is quite another.
Yeah, personality when it comes to Michelle Bachmann is lacking.
Nice. Be nice.
Now,
Be nice.
look, here's you said something in our column this week, which I thought was kind of interesting. You said, I said that Obama was going to agree and the Republicans were going to agree on things like on health care and pre-existing conditions. You said, well, those things are the easy things. What real is compromise is when you sit down and have to give up something that your base doesn't like tort reform for Obama. I'm all for that. Well, if that's the case, what about increasing taxes?
You don't want to. That's not the answer. Your answer is always increasing taxes. The answer is cutting the taxes so businesses will have more profit to hire more people so they can get their own insurance.
This is what's
the
called.
The government can't even clean the streets in Washington, for heaven's sake.
This is what's called the gotcha moment. I made my point. All right, look, thinking about this thing, I think that the Republicans have to be very careful here, because if they show up at this meeting or don't show up because legislators don't come.
Oh, they'll show up. They'll show up.
If they show up at the meeting and don't put down some ideas in good faith, and it looks like they're stonewalling, then I think in this fall it's going to be a real problem. These guys, both sides, better realize, Democrats and Republicans, that if they could get some things done, compromise is good politics. You know, polarization is bad politics. bipartisanship is good politics. One of these days, they're going to get back to realizing that.
The thing that bothers me so much, not only in this issue and so many others, Bob, is that we're not reinventing the world. We know what works. We have experience in what works, whether it's health care, education, lower taxes, more revenue for the government. We have a history of these things. I just don't know why the politicians can't say, look, this worked 10 years ago. Let's try it now and see if it works again. Why are they so locked, as you say, in this polarization gridlock?
Because a big part of it has to do with money and special interests. It keeps coming back to that over and over and over again, and now the Supreme Court has decided to allow corporations and unions to spend all they want. Crazy decision, but it is money, it's special interest, and until we get that somewhat under control, I don't think we stand a chance. But listen, we started something new this year, or this column, which is our
Hall of Shame.
Hall of Shame. So who do we pick?
Well, I think we finally, after some negotiating and some trade-offs, we came up with John McCain for a number of reasons. First of all, he said on the whole gays in the military business that he would want to defer to the military brass and what they said, and then he would take a look at it. Okay, the military brass came up, testified before Congress. Most of them seemed to be for it. McCain was all of a sudden against it. He was for campaign finance reform, McCain-Feingold, and then the Supreme Court ruling, as you just referred to. Now he's kind of wishy-washy on it. So we think that he's the flipper, and we give him the Hall of Shame award this week.
Let me tell you something. One of the reasons for that is he's got a primary, Republican primary, and he's being hit from the right. So all of a sudden he's going to change his position. All right, Cal, I think that's common ground. Wait, let's check out our column in the paper and on USA Today's opinion blog at usatoday.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back again for the next installment of Common Ground.